Assistant City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commission members Cullen, I know he identified he would not be in attendance. Deloche.
Here.
Hone.
Here.
Joseph.
Here.
Pope.
Here.
Vice Chair Carter. Chairman Cannon. We have a quorum.
Thank you. And is there a motion to excuse absent commissioners?
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right. If there's no motion, can we do we have to do that by roll call vote, or can we just do a voice vote?
Yes, we're going to do roll call vote.
Yeah.
Commissioners Deloche.
Yes.
Hone.
Yes.
Joseph.
Yes.
Pope.
Yes.
Chairman Cannon.
Yes.
It passes unanimously.
We will talk about that later. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the invocation. I will do the invocation. So if everybody will please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for this day. We want to thank you for this opportunity to come together, Lord, and to do the work for the city on behalf of the people of the city. Lord, I ask that you grant us wisdom and you grant us patience as we get together and do this committee work. Lord, help us and guide us in wisdom as we tackle these hard issues, Lord. But we know that you will give us no more than we can bear. So in Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Okay, so the consent calendar. Are there any speakers for the consent calendar?
At this time, anyone wishing to comment on item CC1, please press *9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Please press *9 at this time. There are no speakers.
Is there a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar, the minutes of the last meeting?
I make a motion, we approve the consent calendar for last month.
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioners Deloche.
Aye.
Hone.
Aye.
Joseph.
Hello.
Pope.
Aye.
Chairman Cannon.
Aye. Thank you.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, so we're now in NB1, the discussion regarding the recommendations for the city council. All right, everybody, it's the meat and potatoes. So it's been about 6 months since our first meeting. So I would like to begin the process now of making our recommendations to the city council. In this meeting, there's no action item. We're just going to get into, what is it going to look like, what kind of presentation it will be, and where we're going to start. So there are 3 key areas that I want the presentations to focus on. There will be 3 presentations, each with a different area. The first one I would like to be on public safety. And the next one, actually I have no particular order after that actually, but I would like the next one to be economic prosperity focused, and the third one to be focused on increasing civic engagement or civic participation. These recommendations they are recommendations for action that only the city council can do, yes, but they're also presentations of action plans on things that this commission will do and update on what has already been done. And so, we've heard from, about the environmental design, environmental justice. We've heard from the school district about student programs. We've established our relationship with the public safety department. We've heard from MOA about their cultural master plan, all this different data that I think it is time to use that data, even though we're still working on our survey, to use that data to begin our recommendations. So with that, I would like to open it up a little bit to the rest of the commissioners so that we can start this discussion. So again, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make formal recommendations to the city council. So let's talk about how that's going to look like. I'm going to start with, is our vice chair on the line yet?
No, I am not showing that she is in attendance.
Okay, let's start with Commissioner Pope.
Awesome. Okay, so thank you. let's see. So basically, one of the things that I want to focus on over the next year, and I hope will be this commission's priority, is just working on helping to increase and facilitate the understanding of what resources are available in the Antelope Valley to all of our underserved communities, because I know that it's a difficult landscape to navigate. What I mean by that is because we are people that serve in public service and in public outreach, those resources are easy to navigate for us. But for the average person that is trying to work jobs or commute or what have you, that's going to be finding those resources and finding the ways in which to make good on all of the things that the city spends money on. For example, like the Lancaster Connect page, many people are not aware of that those services exist. And I personally don't believe that they're at fault, that they don't know that those services exist, because many of these people and many of these families are just trying to make ends meet. And since we are in the middle of a pandemic, I am hoping that when we are doing this work, that we are helping to increase the awareness of these services, activities, and things of that nature. So after the pandemic, people can understand that their city is there for them. Because one of the things that I have personally learned since I became a commissioner is that the city offers so much, and I want to be sure that that is being used to the best of its ability. In addition to that, I'm hoping that we can focus on ways to partner with other organizations. So, for example, services that are relating to youth issues and services that are pertaining to LGBTQ plus issues. I know that that is something that people don't traditionally associate with when they think of the services that are offered in the Antelope Valley, but I am hoping that somehow we can work to improve the messaging on that, so that people do know that for all types of people here, there are services and resources that accommodate that. So that's just one of the ways in which I am hoping that we are able to prioritize outreach for different communities. And also one of the things that I was curious on is what are some of the ways in which we can utilize our city social media to help people better understand what we're doing. That's just an open-ended question. It doesn't need to necessarily have any action, but I am just wondering how exactly that process could work.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Pope. And I would agree with you. And again, these are recommendations to the City Council, what they can do. But I think a lot of what Commissioner Pope just said is some things that we could take initiatives on as well. Commissioner Hall?
I was thinking when Giovanni was talking, and I was talking earlier about this, but I know the fairgrounds is doing COVID vaccines, right, for an example, and that's cool, right? On a mass scale, that's cool. But I was thinking, how are people getting there? People that may not have transportation. And I think this goes back to navigating services, right? The services are there. I know they are there, but how am I going to get there if I don't have a car, right? Or I don't have a ride. And then not only do I have to get there once, I have to get there again in 3 weeks or whatever for the second one, right? So maybe we could talk to the city about, just expanding transportation or offering even another vaccination site somewhere on the east side that's easier for folks to get to, right? Because I mean, the fairgrounds, it's cool, right? It's a big space, but it's hard to get to if you don't have any transportation, and just simple things like that. And I think Giovanni's really onto something when he says to navigate, because I work in that field of, navigating these things, and it's hard for people that work in it. There's so much red tape and there's so many rules and there's so many requirements, and it's very frustrating to explain to other folks why they may not qualify for something when they feel that they should, and it's also very frustrating to sort of feel like your hands are tied and there's not a lot you can do to help. So I think that building that knowledge base and then also expanding from there will help I'm not quite sure how we do that, but I think that's a good place to start.
That's a great place to start, Commissioner Hone, and it's already being done. Actually, the AVTA is doing rides to the vaccination center. The only thing, and I've actually talked to city staff about that as well. The only thing is that there's more things being said about adding more stops, and that is something that this commission can do. That is something that we could talk about with AVTA and stuff like that. So
your audio is it's a little choppy. Your audio is choppy.
Oh my gosh.
Came out.
Now you're back. Now you're good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe turn off your video, Commissioner Cannon or Chairman Cannon.
Can you hear me
Try
now?
that. Yep,
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
better.
We need to get back in the council chambers. But what was the last thing you guys heard?
We heard you were saying that that the city is offering, but you've reached out to staff in terms of offering additional stops. That's kind of the last part I heard.
Yes. So there was talk about additional stops, and Commissioner Hone, I would love to send you what they sent me, and I can. But basically what my point is that there are things, especially in that as well, that like I said with Commissioner Pope, there are things that this commission can do, which is advocate for stuff like that. And there's also things that only members of the city council can do, or only the AVTA can do. So those are where it's like action and then recommendations as well. So yes, absolutely, I agree.
And thank you for letting me know, because I didn't know that AVTA was doing that. So thank you. Now I know.
Yeah. And Commissioner Hone, I was also going to mention, and I think Karen and I were thinking the same thing. I believe Uber is offering rides to vaccination centers. I believe that's something that they're offering for COVID. So I know I read something about that, and I believe Karen did as well.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Federal level.
Thank you so much, Kavati. I didn't even know that. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Deloche?
All right. Thank you, Chairman. For myself, as far as public safety, what I would love to look at is to start looking at the linkages between community policing and trust and transparency. How do we ensure that everyone knows about the efforts that are currently going on, and if there is not enough, so that our community fully trusts the way we enforce laws in our community, make more of those. The next one, economic prosperity, is looking at how can we continue to educate as COVID restrictions and limitations start to lift, i.e. housing, i.e. Unemployment. What is our community offering to help supplement when, now that the landlord says that I may have to lose my home, what's out there? So do we have education for that? Do we have platforms that will help keep people in their homes, to help keep food on their tables? Because we do understand that communities of color are going to be more impacted by lifting of COVID restrictions when it's time to, go back to work, or, there's no more support coming in. And the last one is just when it comes to civic engagement. I would love to, start looking at our data. So I wasn't privy last meeting. I apologize, I wasn't here, but, are we going to start looking at our data to start these issues? Because that would be a great place to start as well, as we put together our thoughts, but to look at the data that we've already gathered.
Absolutely, Commissioner Deloche, and I couldn't say it better myself. That's exactly what is going to happen and what needs to be done. One of the first steps that we will take is actually what I was going to ask all commissioners to do, which was to go back and look at the data that we've already gathered in our other commissions, because they're all on the city's website. Everything that has been presented is on the city's website. And I Also want to encourage all commissioners to meet with the relevant people that utilize our resources that we have as commissioners in the city. We have the public safety director, meet with him, meet with the captains, get their insight on things and recommend things to them, see how things work, familiarize yourselves with relevant departments. We've established those relationships, it's time to use them. I want everybody to think about, meeting with people like Heather Varden, who helped us get this commission started, who is the deputy mayor that oversees things like housing and homelessness. She's been working on it for a very long time. And by the next meeting, I would like for us to have sort of kind of data that we've used, that we've already had. I want us to be data driven. I want us to be guided by the data we've already collected and by the data that we will be collecting over the next few months. I will now like to hear from Commissioner Joseph.
How are you doing? The last joint city council meeting between Lancaster and Palmdale, they discussed literally fireworks in illegal grow houses, okay? So if that's that important to the city, then I would like to know of the legal grow houses that are in the valley, how many are minority owned? What's the process for minorities to get permits? Because if this is a booming business, if it becomes a situation where minorities are not involved, then, we have a problem. Also, the church, Lancaster Baptist, one of the biggest churches, said, we got to do something about grow houses. Well, technically under federal laws, they're all illegal, okay? So to demonize grow houses, I understand they have a cartel problem, but that's almost a terrorist issue. If there's a foreign agency threatening citizens in the town, that's a terrorist issue, So I just don't want to get to a situation like in the 80s and 90s where we went so hard on a war on drugs, and come today we find out that our federal government was one of the biggest import and suppliers of cocaine. So these are big questions. So I want the city to lay out what minorities are in this business. What's the process? Because I've already heard backlash of minorities trying to get in this business in the town, and I haven't heard good feedback. So I would like transparency through the city for them to say, hey, this is what's going on. We're not trying to lock up a bunch of minorities again, for a so-called drug war, just to clarify that. And that's really, there's a lot of things I want to know, but just since the cities, view that as being so important, then they need to explain that and break it down for the citizens.
So to add to that, Chairman, to add to that, am I hearing you say when we get the data of how many grow houses there are, that it would be a good idea to look at the impact or the shutting down of businesses of color versus businesses that are not of color or a bigger conglomerate? Is that what I'm hearing? Because I think that would be a great idea to look at too.
That as well, but just the process of getting into this business. How easy is it for minorities to get in? From what I'm hearing, the permits and the cost is so much to even start that a lot of minorities are pretty much being shut out before they even try to get in.
Commissioner Joseph, if it would be helpful, we can set up a meeting so that we can kind of walk through the steps. I'm obviously not familiar with the promise. I understand the process, but I don't work with it on a daily basis. But I'd be happy to set up a meeting where you can learn more about the actual process of getting the permits and everything that happens from start to finish for somebody to be to sell or to not sell, sorry, to open that type of business in the community if you're interested.
Most definitely, I'm interested. And also just the data of how many minorities are already in the businesses and working here in our city.
Well, I don't think that comes to, at this point, when it comes to people that are the illegal growths that are happening in our city, I think that I'm actually interested in the data of how many of those people are minorities. I'm interested in the data about, I believe there was a word used in one of those council meetings about indentured servitude. I am interested in hearing if there are slaves being brought in our valley because of those. What I'm not interested in is working with people that contribute to this type of criminality. What I am looking forward to, though, is the response of the city of Lancaster, of our response to what is happening. And what that response looks like is getting ready to go in the direction of, it looks like there will be, in my lifetime, some sort of retail license process. And I'm interested in learning how that is going to work. I urge everyone also not to just look at all our previous meetings, but look at those city council meetings as well, because there was a city council meeting, I believe last month, that I actually spoke at when this was on, before the joint meeting, when this was on the agenda. And so I think that I definitely agree with you, Commissioner Joseph, on some of those aspects. I want to know more about that as well, Patty. So I would love to be in on that meeting. If we could get it for all of the commissioners, break us up, please, if we have to.
Yeah.
But we're interested in that as well. I believe Commissioner Pope has his hand up. Go ahead.
Just had a very brief question, and it doesn't necessarily relate to the topics that Commissioner Joseph brought up. However, it does relate to the council meetings. Do we know how regularly the joint council meetings might be conducted? And the reason that I ask this question is because I believe that, and so sorry if you hear a motorcycle passing by through my neighborhood. Okay, there we go. So sorry about that. But my question is, do we know how regular these meetings between both councils might be conducted? Because I believe that those meetings are incredibly good for just like the working relationship between both sister cities of the Antelope Valley. And I feel like as more of those meetings are facilitated, the more the public can be brought into that process. So is there any way that we could recommend to the council that possibly more of those meetings be conducted on a more regular frequency?
I don't see why. That's why we can't. Patty, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's a council decision when they want to have the joint meetings. There was quite a bit of work that was set up at that meeting, and things that the staff will be working on. And I'm sure at some point they'll gather back together to discuss their findings and how to proceed. But I mean, you're welcome to make that recommendation or to suggest that it was a good that it was a step in the right direction, or whatever you feel, to the council. I think they would be happy to hear that from the commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Pope. Commissioner Hone, I see your hand up, but I believe Nigel had his hand up, and so did Deputy Mayor Varden. So I'm gonna go. I believe that's in order. I want to hear from our guests. So can I hear from Nigel first, and then we're gonna go to you, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, just real quick. So from the joint meeting, when they were talking about grow houses, that was completely from a criminal element. And they also wanted the Board of Supervisors to also assist in investigating the criminal element of the growing, as well as they were looking into just the adverse effects of citizens and the water table and things of that nature. So I think that that's something that at this point may be a little outside the purview of the commission, being that they may be bringing in the federal government to help them in looking into what's going on there. I agree with both Shahid and Commissioner Cannon that minorities do need access. But I want to make sure that we know that we focus on the fact that if there's any criminal element whatsoever, we want to get that out of our community.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Most definitely. It's just the way it was presented, it may get citizens in a frenzy, frantic about thinking, we got cartels in our, cities, which that's a foreign entity. That's, it can be deemed as terrorism. So, it seems to me that's an easy avenue to go after those criminals. But just when things like this come up, historically, minorities have been the ones to go to jail, have been the ones to be demonized because of things like that. So I just want to just make that clear, that minorities aren't being, put in a criminal category because they're trying to start a business and trying to gain financial freedom.
Thank you, Commissioner Joseph. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, I just wanted to kind of add to the conversation, since we are talking about land and these illegal grows. Typically, my understanding is that the land that they're on would be seized and then become either city or county or some sort of government entity's property. And I wanted to kind of see if you guys would agree that it would be beneficial to be part of the conversation as to what happens to that land after it's taken away. Could we use that land then, if it becomes property of the city of Lancaster, to do something like put a homeless shelter on it, or put a domestic violence shelter, or some sort of human services on that property once it is seized? So we don't have, there's a grow, they lose the property, something like that happens, and now it's just vacant land that nobody can do anything with. So I kind of wanted to see if there was anything we could do from this commission standpoint to see if the land could be repurposed into social services as ordinance.
So all of this would be under the recommendation that we make. Some of this will be could be in the recommendations that we make about public safety, but I think personally, that they've got that. I think that they've made that a priority. But when it comes to the economic prosperity part of it, I think that definitely is a social equity commission purview. I think that when it comes to how even just this industry itself could contribute to the economic prosperity of Lancaster, is something that definitely we could definitely be involved in, especially when we talk about when down the road, if retail licenses come up, definitely. But I don't want us to just think about it from the point of the entrepreneur part of it, but also think about the good that it could bring that isn't necessarily pot related. Let's think about like the kind of stuff that it could fund. Think about the kind of things, the kind of jobs that it could create, the kind of security jobs, right? The kind of revenue that could happen, the kind of budgets it could create for the kind of different commissions, stuff like that. So this is great. I want you guys to keep this brainstorming thing up. I would like for us to go into specific details about specific things in the next meeting. I do want to get to Commissioner Hone.
You kind of stole the words from me, but that's where I was going with this, and it seems to me that the risk is obviously, the risk is there, but the benefits must be greater for these people to be doing what they're doing, right? And so if we can make it easier for them to do it the correct way, they can continue to do, they can do it by the board and they can make their money, and that would be part of your, the economic prosperity, and, show them that, yes, you can do this, but let's do it the right way. And I don't know, I have no idea how it works, and I'm sure it is expensive because everything is, and that makes no sense, but if we could go about and use it as an educational thing. And then Heather said something that made me think, I don't know much about where these things are happening. And if the land gets seized and I just think, like, what if I own land out there and somebody's doing this and I don't know, and then the feds come and seize the land? That's gonna suck, right? But I do like the idea of repurposing. If that happens, what can we use that land for, assuming it meets, it's not contaminated, it's safe to use, all that good stuff. Could we do something there? Could we make a recommendation? I know at that joint council meeting too, they were talking about like building a big rec center, and that sort of stuff in both the cities. And is that something that we could do? Some sort of recreation, some sort of, parks and rec thing to repurpose that land. Social services, a shelter would be great, a homeless shelter or homeless services. Yeah, I like that idea. So.
Most definitely. And I think just dealing with homelessness and people's land, if somebody who doesn't live in the state and somebody's doing something on their land, they contact the owner first and let them know, like, look, this is going on your land. Sometimes it's just as simple as being trash on the land. They give the owner a substantial amount of time to, hey, this is going on, clean off your land, or the city will clean it up and bill the owner. That's happened. So owners don't really have to worry about losing their land. It was just like when both of these cities got together in a joint council, nobody talked about a homeless shelter. Nobody I mean, it was disappointing to hear two of the, the biggest cities in the Antelope Valley to just talk about something that, is illegal, that we have police and federal, marshals and things to take care of, and fireworks between the cities. We have way more important issues, if you ask me. And I've asked some citizens, and they're like, oh my God, this is just ridiculous for this meeting, joint council, for them to talk about this.
I think that when we talk about homelessness, and this is something that I talked to the deputy mayor about, and Shahib, I would like to bring you into this conversation.
Chairman Cannon, your audio is breaking up again.
Now you're muted, Chairman. Can you unmute yourself?
Hold on, everybody.
Okay, we still can't hear you.
No.
Barely.
Just barely.
Okay.
Chairman, if you have another phone, you can call in. Oh, he's gonna probably try to get in.
So while he's working on his communication, does anyone else have anything to add to the conversation? Public safety, economic prosperity, and civic engagement. I don't think we've spent much time on the civic engagement piece.
I think that with civic engagement I don't know if that's going to be hard or easy, right? Because I think people want to engage in a community that they care about. So maybe the question is, how do we get them to care? Or do we give them something to care about? Something that feels like they can own, something that feels that was their idea. I think that's the way to get people invested into things.
When you say things, because civic engagement is big and broad, what types of things are we talking?
We could start small. We could start something small as like neighborhood watches. We could bring those back, just connecting with your neighborhood. Or for example, I only know the person that lives in the house next door to me, right? Like maybe some sort of neighborhood get together, get to know your neighbors. And I only know the guy who lives next door to me because my dog barks at him, so I think we've lost touch, but something just that small to rebuild community, this is my neighbor and this is what they do, or, and this is my neighborhood and what can we do to make it better? I don't know if starting small seems like the smart choice.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great idea. I'm glad you changed your terminology. When you say something like neighborhood watch, it has a connotation, especially after, with the climate of America, with the radicalization of some subgroups, we have to be careful with, how are we engaging our community? So I know where I live, we have an organization called Quartz Hill Cares, where we meet to talk about, the direction of Quartz Hill, so on and so forth. So, how do we re-engage our neighbors and talk about how to benefit the community?
Can you hear me, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I was just listening to this little back and forth between Commissioner Deloche and Commissioner Hone. I thought it was great, and I thought it was healthy. I'm back. Definitely, I think that when there are a lot of different kind of civic engagement initiatives that we can introduce and that we can support and that we can tackle. I think that we can, remember when we heard from Juanette Colors from the Wildfire Project over at Kensington campus? And then there's also, we've met with a working group, our subcommittee of the working group. One of those members of the working group was, his name is Kimball. He is also a master gardener, and he teaches social equity and how, you know, gardening and social equity go hand in hand. And these are things that we can facilitate and that we could do as a commission and get going and support. Think about if the city was ramped up what they're already doing with master gardens. There is a community garden. If we had young people get, or even older people, all age people, come and get trained on how to garden, on how to grow, and what it means to grow your own resources, and the cultural aspects of growing our own resources, and where our food comes from, and, you know, just think about the therapeutical aspects of that too. So these are also all things that hit different areas with different points, but the fact that the city is involved in that, the fact that we as commissioners would be involved in that, and I think that the members of the council would even want to be involved in that, increases civic engagement. It brings people that are going to become master gardeners to learn how to grow vegetables from scraps. Now they have a direct line to their city council or to their a city commission. So yes, we could start small, but even the small things, Teresina, even the small things have big effects.
I agree.
Go ahead, Commissioner Foden.
Sorry. One of the things that I had thought about when Commissioners Hone and Deloche mentioned the piece about making sure that people feel as though they're involved in something in their community. I believe that coming from this pandemic, we have an opportunity to say, well, people have been disconnected from each other for so long, for like 16 months, upward of 16 months or what have you. Now we have an opportunity to get these people together once vaccination rates continue to go up and things of that nature. But one of the things that I noticed a few days ago is I was just driving around the city with one of my friends, and we were talking about how many lots there were, and we were just counting. We were just counting the lots. And I think that when you have like such open space, like I know that at least one of those lots could possibly be used for a public project, as was mentioned earlier. If even we were able to bring together the community in regards to planning a project, so that way there's community buy-in with that. So if one of those lots was to be turned into a garden or what have you, if there is somehow like a way for the community to be involved in the city's creation of a project, I think that that would increase buy-in. And when you have those resources available in terms of space, because I do know that some of those lots are privately owned, but if we were able to utilize some of those lots, at least one of them on a publicly owned property, possibly on the east side, if there was a way to have a project on the east side, I think that that would be incredibly beneficial, because people believe as though they're a part of something when you're genuinely like requesting their input, and not just a comment at a meeting, but just in general, like bringing people together. I believe that that's powerful, and I believe that that's something that we could possibly push for if some of the other commissioners agree.
I would agree, Giovanni. I think that we would definitely, I hope everybody's taking notes. By the way, we are now from this moment on in committee work mode. So I hope everybody's taking notes, because we are going to follow up on everything we're talking about and we're saying here. I think we should follow up with Kimball, because actually I know that he's already in the talks with the city about revamping one of his gardens that actually burned down because right there off the boulevard, that because of I think someone was living in the shed or trying to keep warm in the shed or something like that. But that garden is going to be revamped. And if we could get behind that effort, we could even turn that into, okay, let's revamp this garden. Let's see if we can get some volunteers to help us. Let's see if afterwards, once it's revamped and done, if Kimball can do a seminar and do a master gardening seminar, and let's do the social equity aspect of it and the cultural aspect of it, stuff like that. So, and these are things, that will go into our we need to figure out what we're going to call it. Are we still calling it a recommendation? Are we going to call it an equity report? We need something. We need a term.
I just had my hand raised for a quick follow-up question in regards to that. Are there any possible reports that relate to the revitalization of neighborhoods? I know that those reports and plans have been disseminated in the past, but are there any reports that speak of the city's plans at present in terms of neighborhood planning and neighborhood revitalization?
Yes, I'm sure that there are. I don't know if staff can jump in here, but I'm definitely sure that there are some reports that we could search on the website, or that I think that can be available to us if we're specific with our asks.
Maybe having a better understanding of what you're looking for specifically, but we do have different plans. We have a general plan, we have a general plan updates that we make, and those kind of cover development and growth, and what we want the city to look like in a certain time frame. So there's definitely different things that we can look at. Just depends on what you want to review specifically.
Thank you, Patty. Definitely, Commissioner Pope, reach out to staff. I want everybody to think about what we said here. I want everybody to think about what we talked about and where you want to go in the recommendations, and have it for the commission next month by the next meeting. That I want to hear something like, hey, I talked to this person, or I had a meeting with this person, or at least I reached out, or this is the direction that I want to go. The direction that I want to go, my direction will be in the direction of jobs, financial literacy, and public engagement. So that's the direction that I'm going in. So you guys have a feel for where my head is at. I took notes from where you guys' heads were at. And I have that. I'm going to keep that in mind too. Maybe have one recommendation per area, like one public safety, one economic prosperity, and one increase in civic engagement, but get as specific and elaborate as much as possible. So what's next? I want you guys to do that as well, but I want you guys to also learn from the success stories that we heard and that you already know of, and also learn from the lessons in failure. We need to learn from what hasn't worked, right? We need to learn from the efforts of our predecessors as well. Data will guide us. When we present to the city council, everything we present will be backed up by data, not just data that we collected, but data that we have researched. Definitely, I, as chairman, will try to get something. We've said we'd make an inventory. We have created an inventory, but I need to organize that inventory. So I definitely will do my best at that, but I would need some help. So if everybody could think about all the data that you think is relevant to what we're doing, and we will make sure at the next meeting we have an organized inventory. I will also next meeting update you guys on, remember we created a subcommittee. I will update you on where we're at with that, where we met with the working group, but I will update you on where we are, because we're on standby right now, because we've gotten Axon involved as well, which is, I'm going to update you guys on that as well. I have a meeting this week. It's very, I think what they can help us with will hit all of these areas. Is there anything else, any other discussion for NB1? Because I am ready to move on. All right, so hearing none, we're going to move on. I was hoping to hear from other commissioners today, but we are now in public business from the floor. This is the part where we hear from anybody that wants to speak on non-agendized items. Assistant City Clerk, can you please make your announcement?
At this time, anyone wishing to comment on non-agendized items, please press star 9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. State law prohibits the commission from taking action on items not listed on the agenda. Please press star 9 at this time. Caller with the last 4 digits, 6907. Please state your name.
Okay, there we go. My name is Jessica Morales, and I'm here today to address the Social Equity Commission about exactly what you were all discussing is more resources, bringing more resources to the forefront, allowing community members to make sure that, yes, that these resources are available to you and to your family. You don't need to, go online and try to search for answers. We have the answers for you right here. So and that's great that you are addressing this. And also something that came across, and I know Commissioner Chairman Cannon, you had spoke on this too, is the recent ordinance relating to marijuana. And it's important for us in our work, and we work in prevention. So we actually run a coalition called Antelope Valley Marijuana, Alcohol, and Pharmaceutical Prevention Coalition. What we do, we involve youth to say, hey, what are the issues that are most important to you, and what can we do about it? We also utilize Department of Mental Health and other, sectors of our community. So we need to make sure, and Joanna from SFOA. So it's great getting all of that on social media, but let's capture that and then implement it, for us and for our generations to come. So we do appreciate you focusing on youth and social, and also focusing on equity. I would like to see if it's possible for us to be put on the agenda calendar as well. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jessica. Please reach out to us, go to our commission website, or reach out to you can reach out to me. I would love to hear from you on in an agendized way. All right, are there any other speakers?
There are no additional speakers at this time.
Okay, so now we are in commissioner comments. So I will start with Commissioner Pope. Are there any comments?
Not as of yet. There was just one quick question that I had. This is just in pertaining to the website. And it wasn't on anything specific on the website, but I was noticing that on other commissioners' profiles, there was an option, not on our commission page, but on other commissioners' pages, there was the option for an email. Is that option available or possibly not? That was the only comment that I had. Otherwise, no other
Commissioner Pope, you were calling out. Can you please repeat your question?
Oh, sorry. I was just asking if there was an email option that was available to be put on the commission website so that people can get into contact with us and individual members of the commission, because I do know that that is something that is available to other commissioners or other commissions, but I'm not sure if it's available to us. That was my only question.
Absolutely. I would direct that. We can, I think staff can help us out with that as well. And I would elaborate, not just that, but I would like for our signatures and our emails to have at least our phone number. That would be great. just a way for people to reach out to it. Because there's a T under my initial, and I was like, is that for Twain? But I think that was for like an area for a telephone number.
Yeah, I think, Chairman, I think we don't want to assume that because there is no city line at which they can reach you at. So we wouldn't want to assume that you want to give people your private phone numbers, but we can definitely follow up on that. And email, we can also, that's not an issue. We can definitely link your city issued email on your pages.
Thank you, Patty.
Perfect, thank you.
Commissioner Deloche, any comments?
No comments. Great job, team. And I did want to ask that maybe we spend some time looking at the data to decide what the next subcommittee should be. Since the first one is getting its sea legs back, what can we put our efforts toward to get 10 more people in the community working on one of these items that we're already identifying?
Absolutely. Next meeting, we're going to look at the data, and if we need to put an action item on the next agenda, we will. And if we need to save that for the meeting after next, if we take up the whole next meeting looking at the data, we will do what we need to do. Let's play by ear. If in the next few weeks, if I think that we are able to gather enough data to be able to do that and do the action item next meeting, it will be on the agenda. Please hit me up, guys. Please hit me up individually. Definitely, I have all these notes, but I have a son, so update me. Say, hey, Mr. Chairman Cannon, I just want to follow up on this because I will be working on this weekly. So if you haven't heard from me in a week, reach out to me. Thank you. Commissioner Home.
No, I'm just looking forward. I like data. I don't know if that makes me a nerd. So I'm looking forward to finding all that stuff on the city's website and seeing what has already been done and tried and what we can do differently going forward. And I'm just excited to get to work.
I am too. Commissioner Joseph.
Nothing in particular. I just would like to give a moment of silence for Connie Vegas. She was the name I recommended for a task force, and she committed suicide a couple weeks ago. So, yes.
I'm sorry, Shahid, what happened?
They said she committed suicide. There was some DV issues and different things like that, harassment at her job. So, been dealing with it. I worked with her for about 5 years, man. And, we've housed more homeless and youth than I can count. So, she was a great person. So I just want to, remember her and her name and keep up hard work as in, to help people.
Thank you. And we'll do a moment of silence at the end for Connie. Oh my goodness, I didn't know about that. Last time I talked to her she was looking forward to the next meeting, working group meeting with myself and the two commissioners. Jesus. Okay. Thank you. We will do a moment of silence for Miss Vegas. Actually, let's do that now. Cool. Thank you. People, it takes a unique kind of person to want to do this work or want to be involved in this work. And each person in our community is unique in their own way. And just hearing that, man. So before we adjourn, I do have a comment about attendance. Today, we excused absent commissioners. I feel like we've had to take that vote too many times. It's time for us to get into committee work. It is time for us, like I said, I'll be working on this every week. the kind of gear that we're switching into is going to require all of us to be present at these meetings every single month. If we miss one meeting, it's like missing a lot of work in 1 month. So I want everybody to do that. Next meeting, most definitely on the agenda, will be an attendance policy that we will be voting on. So let's get to work, everybody. Off to the races. Get to work on your recommendations and what you that you're going to have for these 3 key areas. Let's call it an equity report, even though we're not really reporting on anything for now. Let's just call it that for now until we make a vote on what it's going to be called, what the presentation is going to be called. So yeah, the next regular meeting of the Social Equity Commission is scheduled for Wednesday, June 16th, 2021 at 5 p.m. Everybody have a blessed day and stay safe, and hit me up, call me if you need anything. We obviously we cannot all talk at the same time, but individually reach out to me, even if it's not about commission business. I care about each and every one of you, even the ones that are not here. Take care of yourself, everybody.